Hello, I am your proud superintendent, Dr. Leslie Torres Rodriguez. I am leading the crucial process of reimagining and restructuring our school district. I need you, all of you, to be significant partners in our process. We are doing this imperative work to deliver on our commitment to ensure improved student outcomes and equitable access to resources for each and every one of our beautiful and capable students. When we have completed this process together, we will hold in our hands a stronger, more equitable school district designed to serve all students well, a plan built by the entire community that will benefit the entire community. We at Hartford Public Schools are coordinating the process, but you, the community, families, students, teachers, and all of our stakeholders are the voices and the minds that must inform this work. By sharing your thoughts, you will help to co-create our district model. Our work together, which takes place over the coming months in community meetings with families, partners, and schools, will culminate in the presentation of recommendations for district models for excellence, different ways in which the district can be reimagined while ensuring the health and viability of our neighborhoods, and continuing to provide access to opportunities and services for our families and students. For news about meetings and ongoing updates on our process, please visit our district website at www.hartfordschools.org.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. As chairman of the Hartford Board of Education, I hereby call this meeting to order. Ms. Santiago, if you can call the roll, please.
Greg Stallings.
Here.
Here.
Aaron Taylor.
Here.
Julio Flores.
Here.
Chante Browning.
Here.
Aisha Clark.
Here.
Juan Hernandez.
Here.
Kimberly Oliver.
Here.
We have a quorum. Oh, wait,
Thank-
Alexa Morales. Here.
Thank you so much. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present and our TV viewers. The board, the superintendent, and I are pleased that you have joined us to celebrate achievement, review information, and make policy decisions related to effective operation of the Hartford Public Schools. This is a regular meeting, and all items that will be discussed or voted on this evening have been posted as required by state law. As the Board of Education, we are here to set goals, listen to reports of the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. We are not here to make management decisions or solve problems for individuals. Management is the responsibility of the superintendent. The monthly meetings of the board are open to the public. They are the time when the board conducts its business of governing the school system in a public arena. The regular meetings are not meetings with the public. Therefore, comments from the audience will be confined to the time designated for the public to address the board. Decorum and courtesy are important elements in effective public meetings. Please silence your cell phones or communication devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since this is legally mandated that we are accurately recording these proceedings, I may ask from time to time that you silence your cell phones or refrain from making any noise that might interfere with our recording capabilities. I am pleased that you've taken the time to join us this evening. We are very proud of our school system, and we thank you for your interest in Hartford Public Schools. Mr. Flores will translate this in Spanish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Buenas noches. El presidente de la Junta de Educación de Hartford ha llamado a orden esta reunión ordinaria de la Junta del 23 de enero de 2018. Damos una cálida bienvenida a todas las personas presentes y a nuestros televidentes. La Junta y la Superintendente se complacen que se han unido a nosotros para celebrar logros, revisar información y tomar decisiones relacionadas con el funcionamiento efectivo de las escuelas públicas de Hartford. Esta es una reunión ordinaria y todos los asuntos que serán discutidos o votados en esta tarde han sido notificados como lo requiere la ley estatal. Como Junta de Educación de Hartford, estamos aquí para establecer metas, escuchar los informes de la superintendente, aprobar los presupuestos, contratos y nombramientos de personal y establecer normas para el distrito. No estamos aquí para tomar decisiones administrativas o resolver problemas individuales. La administración es la responsabilidad de la superintendente. Las reuniones mensuales de la Junta están abiertas al público. Son el momento en que la Junta lleva a cabo su tarea de gobernar el sistema escolar en un espacio público. Las reuniones regulares no son reuniones con el público. Por lo tanto, los comentarios de la audiencia se limitarán al tiempo designado para el público dirigirse a la Junta. El decoro y la cortesía son elementos importantes en reuniones públicas eficaces. Por favor, silencie sus teléfonos celulares o dispositivos de comunicación y absténgase de hablar mientras otros están hablando, ya que es mandato legal de que los procedimientos sean grabados con precisión. Es posible que tengamos que pedir orden periódicamente si el ruido interfiere con nuestras capacidades de grabación. Nos complace que se haya tomado el tiempo para esta tarde para unirse a nosotros. Estamos muy orgullosos de este sistema escolar y les damos gracias por su interés en las escuelas públicas de Hartford.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to have the quorum, Mrs. Taylor. Ms. Taylor, excuse me.
We as a board, in collaboration with the superintendent and district leadership, are committed to cultivating a culture of excellence at all levels of Hartford Public Schools. We thank you for taking the time to attend tonight's board meeting. We appreciate you coming out to learn more about Hartford Public Schools and for sharing your thoughts and concerns. We have established a protocol to track and respond to concerns raised this evening. We want you to know that we take your concerns seriously, and to that end, we will have staff available for immediate follow-up if follow-up is required. After you have finished speaking, a staff member will come up to you ready to take down your information. They will follow up with an update within 48 hours. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak. At the 2-minute mark, Ms. Santiago will ring the bell, letting you know that you have 1 minute left. At the second bell, please wrap up your comments. Now, Mr. Julio Flores will read this in Spanish.
Nosotros, la Junta de Educación, en colaboración con la superintendente y personal del distrito, estamos comprometidos a cultivar una cultura de excelencia en todos los niveles de las escuelas públicas de Hartford. Les agradecemos se haya tomado el tiempo para asistir a la reunión de la Junta esta noche. Les agradecemos su participación y su deseo de aprender más sobre las escuelas públicas de Hartford, y también por compartir sus pensamientos y preocupaciones. Nosotros tomamos sus preocupaciones muy seriamente y hemos establecido un protocolo para el seguimiento y respuesta a inquietudes planteadas. Tenemos personal disponible para seguimiento inmediato para los casos que lo requieren. Una vez que usted haya terminado de hablar, un miembro del personal estará disponible para tomar su información. Esa persona investigará su caso y se comunicará con usted dentro de 48 horas. Les recordamos que tienen 3 minutos para hablar. Cuando han pasado 2 minutos, la señorita Santiago sonará el timbre dejándole saber que le queda 1 minuto. Al segundo sonido, por favor, terminen sus comentarios. Gracias.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Glanville will now announce the names.
Thank you. Luis Delgado.
Thank you. Peace. I'm here in support of the superintendent's plan to reorganize our schools, and I'm going to say why. I have attachments to some of these schools because I worked in them, and I'm very sad to see them close. But more importantly than that, we have to get our business in order. But most of all, I'm here to call attention to the union and to the teachers, because we made an investment in each and every single one of you that's here. You get a salary, you get benefits, you get all kinds of stuff. So if you're not here, and this goes for anyone who doesn't live in Hartford, if you're not here to support the superintendent and you don't live in Hartford, I suggest you go home right now. Because the narrative of what's going to happen in Hartford is going to be controlled by the community. We are going to be the ones that lead this conversation. And anyone that wants to participate and wants to collaborate has to do that with that understanding. Because for far too long, we have allowed people that don't live in Hartford to control our destiny, the way that we do things. And we can't allow that anymore. Many of the parents that are here today are here to support the superintendent. And many of them feel like I do. They feel some type of way about it. I went to Batchelder School. My kids graduated from Batchelder. You know what I'm saying? But we have to make sure that we do what's right for the city and not what's right for organizations that have their own personal interests in this. The narrative will be led by the community and not by outsiders. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bianchi Pinkney-Narain.
Good evening. Good evening. Board of Education members and Superintendent Dr. Leslie Torres Rodriguez. My name is Bianchi Pinkney-Narain, and I'm a member of the Hartford Parent Leadership Coalition and its chair of its Committee on School Closings and Consolidation. Our coalition's mission is to coordinate parent advocacy efforts citywide so parent influence is amplified in supporting of improvement of our children's schools. Like all of our coalition leaders, I have come to you as a parent from School Governance Council and PTO background. My 2 children attend Hartford Public Schools. They mean the world to me. But they are just 2 of the 21,000 reasons why I support the district's model for excellence. All students have the right to a free and equitable education with reading and math scores that meet or exceed grade level proficiency. All deserve strong pre-K opportunities both in North and South Hartford, where they can build strong foundations and feed into the high-performing and well-resourced community schools. All pathways to middle and high schools must guarantee safety for our children. No more rat, roach-infested buildings, no more collapsed ceilings and doors that don't close, furnaces that do not work, broken lunch tables and chairs, dirty windows and broken blinds. No more environmental hazards. Instead, as this plan sets forth resources to improve not just the physical conditions, but deliver art, music, gym, sports, programs for all students. Families won't have to win a lottery to see enrichments like AP college courses and job readiness programs. And as it has happened in recent months, parents can finally have a voice and opportunity to participate in the redesign of our schools. When the recommendations are passed tonight, it is our hope and expectation that our mayor, city council, state legislative delegation will support this first step towards an equitable education for all Hartford children. Our parent coalition embraces and will rally around this strategic plan. We want to work with the board and the district to get parent leaders more involved. We support the critical pre-K through 5th grade years. We recognize how important it is to ramp up students in 6th through 8th grades so that they are prepared to make the leap from middle school to college to career readiness. We also see the need to improve conditions for teacher professional learning. We agree with the treatment of every school as a community school with deeper community partnerships, wraparound services for all our students, and an authentic emphasis on welcoming environments. Far too long have Hartford parents seen disinvestments that widen disparities in our neighborhood schools. It's time for us to stop looking the other way when we see problems and work together to solve them. We have 21,000 reasons why this matters most. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Santana.
Good evening, Superintendent, honorable board members. My name is Kelly Santana, and I'm a resident of Hartford and a grandmother of a pre-K child attending the Parkville Elementary School. I am also the Parkville's PTO treasurer, and I'm actively involved in the Hartford Parent Leadership Coalition. During the last board meeting of Board of Education meeting on January 9th, it was my first time coming to the board meeting, and I did not expect someone from the audience to ask me if I was getting paid to support the superintendent's plan, which I think was uncalled for and totally out of line. But I've come here today to set the record straight. Yes, I am being paid. I'm being paid by the young minds in our school system who at this moment are not able to read at grade level. In my grandson's school, 234 students completed the 2016-2017 State Connecticut Standard Basis Assessment Test, and only 24 of them could read at proficiency. Only 23 are at grade level math. These scores are mirrored across the district. Throughout the district, 8,953 students were tested and only 1,963 were at grade level in reading. And in math, there was 8,821 tested and only 1,370 are at grade level. And that's across the district scores. So like I said at the last meeting, I support the superintendent's plan for the following reasons. The pathways that is outlined in the plan will help and make it easier for families to know what school their children will be going to, starting from the elementary point to the high school level. This really takes the stress away from me because I know that my grandson will have an established lifeline of relationships with other students throughout his education in Hartford until he graduates. The resources that are outlined in the plan, such as adding more teachers and support staff in the remaining open schools to better support our children socially and economically. The entire plan calls for equity for all students, and all means all. In closing, I just want to say to all the board members here today that I believe, along with many others standing here with me today, to vote yes to this plan so that we can start working together as one team with one goal in mind, and that is striving for excellence in all Hartford schools, for all students' success, for all Hartford schools as a whole, not a magnet school, not a public school, but a Hartford school. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Heather Bukina Cibrian, sorry.
Good evening, Superintendent and honorable board members. My name is Heather Bukina Cibrian, a resident of Hartford and a mother of a Latino child who attends Burns Latino Studies Academy. I am also the PTSO president and a member of the School Governance Council at Burns Latino Studies Academy, and have been actively involved in the restructuring and redesign process from the very beginning. With everybody afraid of change in this world, how can it be good, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, yes, it is difficult, but sometimes it is necessary to do so. Fear is not to be put into this equation, please, for we will lose sight of what is important, the children. We need to tap into the potential of our children and do what is right. Let them grow and let them keep on the path to growing more stronger. The following are some reasons why I support the superintendent's recommendations. For my own school, I think it would be great for a pre-K magnet to work side by side with us. This will allow teachers to share best practices and families to also get to know us as well. I am also in favor of the pathways. Many families scramble in the lottery process trying to figure out where their child will go next. To be able to guarantee a seat in the middle school or the high school, it will help families and our students get a better prepared for school. For all students to have full-time art, full-time music, and a full-time gym program along with sports in all schools. And to have more grade level classrooms and more staff to support the academic and social, emotional needs of every student. We do realize that the schools must be closures to have equity for all students, and we want those families to know you have our community, our commitment at Burns Latino Studies Academy, and that will take part in transition process to help families and the students transition well into their new schools and welcome them with open arms. In closing, I'd like to leave you with this. There's an old saying my grandmother used to say to me, and that is, sometimes you have to sacrifice a lamb in order to get a beautiful sheep. In other words, sometimes you must let go of the past, of old, in order to get something new and beautiful. Please vote yes for the plan to establish equity for all students throughout Hartford Public Schools. And I thank you very much this evening.
Thank you. Tawana Smith.
Good evening, Superintendent of the schools and the staff committee. My name is Tawana Smith. I'm previously a parent for Batchelder School. I was the PTO president back in 2008 and 2009. My son also attended the school at that time. With me going into being the president over the school, it was a lot of clean house that was going on in the school. We went through several things such as we had to get new staff coming in for teachers. Within the 3 years, we had 3 different principals coming into the school. The children was failing. At that time, I even tried to get help for the kids that they kept trying to pass on, not getting the services that was needed for the child learning ability. We even had the meetings for parents at the board. We was fighting for children rights, and they still was passing their children on knowing that they were not at the learning ability that they were supposed to be on. It was a lot at that time, even with the embezzlement of money at Batchelder School. So I witnessed a lot coming into PTO as president. So I was able to sit in the room with Ms. Bentham and the board at that time, and we had to rehire a new principal to come in. Her name was Miss Green at the time. But it was a lot going on within that school. At that point, I took my son out. I also talked to other parents to take their children out. We still was into the Hartford School District, but when we seen that it wasn't just our children failing, it was teachers passing our children on, lying on their test scores, I was a witness to all that. And I was that parent that was standing in place for almost 300-400 parents coming into these board members' meetings, sitting with one other parent who I wish could be here because she was my vice president and she suffered the most because she had a child that was disabled. So I'm for you. You have my support. I'm for education. I'm for children learning and moving up forward. I also was a worker for the school system at Kennelly in the cafeteria. And I also worked as a basketball coach. So it's not just me sitting in as a parent, I'm also sitting in as a worker for the Hartford school system. I support teachers, but I don't support a teacher that's just gonna pass a child on without their education moving forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Natalie Langlaise.
Good evening to the Board of Ed members, Superintendent, Chairman. Today, it's I am very much obliged to be in this position. I was a member of the Equity 2020 committee when we were speaking about closing 5 or more schools. And we weren't having that as a district and as parents. Today we are looking at a district model which is suggesting the closure of 2 schools. Right there, that's a huge improvement just with that one point. I am in support of this district model for excellence because it has long-term vision and it promises equity and improvement for all our children. I am very much aware of the heartache, those whose schools would be impacted. I am very much aware of the heartache and distress that some parents and staff would be experiencing. And I myself and my son will also be going through transition, although, you know, we are hopeful of coming back as an MLK middle school. What I'm asking the board at this point in time is to really support this model of excellence. And, you know, while everyone wants to stay and discuss right here, I am ready for the next phase. You know, I am ready for us to start to talk about curriculum and programming and after-school programs and how we're going to keep our teachers accountable and how we're going to hold our principals accountable to make sure that the ultimate goal of our children's academic performance improving, we want to make sure that that is achieved. Yes, we want safe schools, we want beautiful schools, but we want our kids, you know, we want their grades to go up. Ultimately, I would say that we need to start holding school specifics meeting immediately. You know, we want to see the board at MLK. We want to know how our individual transition is going to progress. And I would like to suggest other schools do the same. Get your SGCs and PTO together because there's a lot of work ahead of us. And as always, I am optimistic that this district can do it. Okay, we can be on the national map here in America to represent a district that can combine. Isn't that a fantastic thing? We are combining some magnets with some neighborhood schools. Isn't that another way of solving the problem of integration? You know, if we really look at this plan, there are many, many points that augur well for this district going forward. I want to say thank you for all the hard work you are doing, and as always, I'm here to support and serve. God bless.
Thank you. Sean Duenas. Sean Duenas.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Good evening, parents, teachers, and students in attendance. My name is John Duenas. I'm the parent of 3 members of the Hartford school community. The one thing that we all have in common here tonight is that we are all here because we care about our children and we care about our schools. As a member and as a parent and as a member of the School Governance Council, as well as a member of the HPLC Leadership Coalition, I fully support the district model of excellence presented here tonight to the board. I believe that the vision of Dr. Torres Rodriguez is that of fairness and equity. Equity for all 21,000 future leaders of this community, state, and country. Now I understand that this decision impacts everyone in this room in different ways, and I understand that there are a lot of emotions. For me, this decision impacts me and all 3 of my kids who are in different schools. However, I understand that this isn't about one person. It's about doing what's right for 21,000 of the people we love the most. So often we forget that we're part of something much bigger. In this case, we are part of a passionate, committed, strong, and loving community. So I urge the board to do what is equitable for all of our students and approve this plan.
Thank you. Emilio Chiniegas.
Good evening, Superintendent and honorable board members. I want to congratulate Ms. Brody and Ms. Clark and Juan Hernandez for your election that you just won. With that said, I just want to just try to follow the script so I can stay with the 3 minutes. My name is Millie Arciniegas, and I am the Executive Director of the Hartford Parent University. When I first got involved in urging equity in education for Hartford children, I was fighting for my own. Like the parents for whom I am now committed to building capacity so they can advocate for their children, I spent years trying to break through school bureaucratic barriers that favor the status quo or of mediocrity, yeah, over the fragile potential of individual students. And it is fragile. From the 1990 state takeover of the Hartford schools to the 2007 launch of the reform effort, and in the years since, it is clear to any honest observer that academic progress is just somebody talking. When you look at the data on student performance, you have to ask, who can tell me what changed? There are at least 3 disturbing patterns. Opportunities lost. Hartford's small proportion of children prepared for success after high school compared to the statewide average is beyond distressing. What good is a family-friendly atmosphere at a school if you get a high school diploma but can't take it to the bank? What if you avoid dropping out of high school only to later drop out of college or land in a dead-end job? Ladies and gentlemen, we have to stop making Hartford education a false promise. Number 2, lost accountability. Chronic low performance, especially in our neighborhood schools, has us tonight arguing over which ones ought to close so the overall level of quality can rise. It is a painful question. If we were making the judgment based on lack of improvement, however, most of them would close. Number 3, a loss of focus. Historically, more attention has been paid to the politics between City Hall and the school system than the resources frozen for 9 years. Poverty has been concentrated in the Hartfords, Bridgeports, and New Havens of the world, left that way largely by institutional racism. The move to ease segregation through the Chef case did bring about Hartford-hosted magnet schools, but they saved seats for suburban children who never came, while our neighborhood schools struggle to meet the needs of children who disproportionately require special education and language learner support. Who tolerates this? Not us. No más. No more. Hartford cannot afford any longer to put children's opportunities, accountability for quality, or attention to the trauma of institutional racism on the back burner. If you're being evicted, come to school hungry, or don't have access to books or the internet, surviving poverty is your politics and equity your only hope. Right now, in the richest state, in the richest country of the world, Hartford can be a model for providing educational equity to all children, or not. Yes, it is painful to have to shut the doors to your school when it is conveniently just down the street. But let's be honest, how far away is a good school? What if Hartford, as this plan envisions, gives children brighter futures by making improvements at 36 high-quality schools instead of sticking with 4 dozen mediocre ones. We can't afford this question anymore. No más, no more, pa'lante.
Harry Morrison.
Hello, everyone. My name is Terry Morrison, and I'm a parent of 7 children, 5 of which have graduated from Hartford Public Schools. I never felt the desire to take my kids out of the city of Hartford to be educated because within my heart, I believed in the people that were educating them. We developed solid relationships that were relevant for education. But in my experience as a parent, I've seen other parents not have as well of an experience. My kids are on the honor roll, they're excellent learners, they're good communicators, but other parents don't have that same opportunity. The reason why I didn't take my kids out of Hartford to be educated is because I believe in my city, I pay taxes here, and I deserve the best education here for my children. So many times we accept mediocre behavior, but we pay regular taxes. And I want my tax-paying money to pay people that believe in education the way I do and that build strong leaders, because that's what we need. I don't want anybody who's a person who can't take care of themselves right now to inherit me as an elderly person, because I'm high maintenance. And another thing, working in education, it gets very disparaging when you're knocking a kid in the back of the head to graduate and jacking him up to take that test, and then you drive down the street and you see him standing on the corner selling drugs because he didn't get a job. My honor roll students do not deserve that future. And I implore you to please change that, because it's impacting me in a negative way. Thank you for all your support. Please change our school's behavior. Love y'all.
Thank you. Vanessa Torres Diaz.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Torres Diaz. I'm presenting Wish Madness School. I'm here today because it's a lot of stuff is happening in Hartford Public Schools. I want this to be clear in the floor. Y'all need to have the teachers help students in the school system to graduate. Like mostly me. I graduated and I was in special ed, and I want my kids to graduate too. And my neighborhood is okay, but I want my kids to be better, better in the school system. And it's too much stuff happening. Like the teacher needs to be strict in the school system more often. Me, like a parent, I'm always involved in my kids' school. And I'm a PTO secretary of Wish School. And I'm presenting the school of Wish in every other school in the school in Hartford, Connecticut. I'm raised and I was living in Hartford my whole life. I don't want my kids to grow up and need to drop out. No, I want my kids to finish school how I did, like a parent. And my kids too. And y'all need to start having all the teachers in here to work with my kids. If I send my kids to school, it's for a reason. If I graduated, my kids need to come out graduating from high school. And I'm sending it clearly to every parent in here who is supporting me in here with their kids. I'm a PTO secretary of Wish, but y'all need to put this. The teacher needs to be on top. If they are there to be teachers, they have to teach our kids how to be parents. They are parents because I'm a parent too. I'm always involved in my kids' life. But y'all need to do is have all the teachers who are teachers who need to come in here and work like a teacher. Don't go in there with drama. That's all I could tell y'all for now.
Thank you. Milagros Vega.
Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Milagros Vega. Quiero que Julio me ayude en la traducción, Julio. Primeramente, antes de yo proseguir por el español, quiero usar mi lengua porque tenemos aquí muchos padres que no hablan inglés. Y en estos momentos ellos no están entendiendo ninguno de los padres que están hablando. Pero a mí me van a entender porque yo voy a usar mi lengua.
Ms. Vega has asked me to translate for her, as she's going to speak in Spanish because she knows there are a lot of parents here who don't understand, and she wants to speak in her own tongue, so I will serve as her translator for this.
Gracias a todos los que trabajan para Leslie, el board. Dios les bendiga a todos.
Thank you to all who are working with Leslie and on the board. God bless them all.
Estoy aquí apoyando a la superintendente con su nuevo plan,
I'm here to support the superintendent with his new plan.
ya que tengo nietos que están en el distrito de Hartford.
Because I have several grandchildren who study in the Hartford Public School District.
Cuando escuché del nuevo plan, yo me fasciné de este plan cuando Leslie dijo que ella quería más escritura, más lectura para estos niños, intensiva.
I was fascinated when I first heard of the plan, and I heard the superintendent say how she wanted more intensive reading and math for our students.
Porque sabemos que tenemos niños jóvenes en high school que en estos momentos no leen y están en high school.
As we know that we have a lot of young people in our high schools who aren't able to read.
A mí personalmente me destroza el corazón, me duele cuando un padre se me acerca a mí y me dice, Milagro, apóyame en educación especial, porque mi niño no lee. Un joven que ya está por graduarse.
It breaks my heart when other parents come to me and ask for my support because their children are in high school ready to graduate and they cannot read.
Ya es tiempo que esta comunidad, estoy hablando para los que no aceptan el plan, se quiten la venda de los ojos y apoyemos a esta juventud que quiere salir hacia adelante y no los dejan.
I think it's time for people to take the blindfold off and support these children and let them move ahead instead of holding them back.
Porque, como dijo esta madre que acaba de hablar, nuestros hijos, ¿dónde terminan? Nuestros jóvenes, ¿dónde terminan? Ellos se aburren en una escuela que ellos no están entendiendo porque no saben leer y terminan en esas calles de Hartford. Lamentablemente, terminan haciendo años en esas cárceles.
As the previous speaker said, our children come to the schools and they're not attended to, they get bored, they don't understand, and they end up on the streets and often spend years in the jails.
Qué triste, porque para el que no ha tenido un hijo en la cárcel, no nos entiende. Pero el que ha tenido un hijo en la cárcel y en la calle, sí nos entiende. Y eso es bien doloroso. Vamos a luchar por nuestros hijos. Como dijo Milly, no más, se acabó para adelante.
How sad it is. If you've never had a child in jail, perhaps you don't understand. But if you have, you know that that is really painful. So, as Millie said before, no más, en adelante.
Sí, por favor, necesitamos el apoyo de todos. Necesitamos que apoyen a la superintendente para la igualdad para todos los estudiantes. Porque yo hablo por mis nietos, están en escuela especial fuera del distrito. Mi lema es porque nuestros niños tienen que ir a aprender lectura fuera del distrito.
I ask everyone to support the plan and support the superintendent. I speak on behalf of my grandchildren who are special ed children are currently outside of the district. And I don't understand why our children have to go outside of the district to learn how to read.
por favor, apóyenla. Dios les bendiga a todos.
Please support the plan. God bless you all.
¿Ok? Oh, el timbre, me voy para darle oportunidad a otros padres, pero me tocaba 6 minutos, 3 por el inglés y 3 por el español.
I'm leaving because the bell sounded, but I should have been given 6 minutes, 3 in Spanish and 3 in English.
Delmaris Serrano McDonald.
Good evening. Good evening to you all. My name is Delmaris Serrano McDonald. I am a parent and a resident of the city of Hartford for the last 30 years. Graduated Hartford Public High School, very proud. I have 4 children, 2 of them in which they attend environmental science, and the other one attend Great Path Academy in Manchester. Sadly to say, as a high school, the city of Hartford did not give me what I wanted to see for my children. So I put them away in Manchester. But I do support your plan in hope that I can actually keep the 2 little ones at environmental science and have a high school to follow through in the community in which they live. And I commend you for taking and making the hard decisions that for a very long time have been needed. I actually am proud to say that it took nearly 12, 13 years for us to stand so proudly and say, we need changes and this is going to happen. I support you, and I know the rest of our team support you. Anything you need, here we are. I hope that you follow through. I hold everybody accountable, not just the board and yourself, Superintendent Torres, but also the parents and teachers that work underneath the Hartford Board of Education. I hold you guys all accountable, and I only can hope for the better of Hartford. Thank you.
Thank you. Minnie Gonzalez. Minnie Gonzalez.
Good afternoon, and I want to say thank you for allowing me to say a few words. And I'm here with my colleague, Representative Angel Arce. I came to Hartford in 1983, and since that year, it's always the same story. The Hartford Public School is going down the drain. There have been 14 superintendents since 1980s, but it's always the same story. Same complaint from parents and teachers, and meeting behind closed doors, but no actual changes to improve the education system. Although superintendents represent a lot of changes over the years, if we go by the list and dates, superintendents don't last long on the job. And if I compare with what has happened in the past, it will be time to get a new superintendent in less than a year. And my question to the board, is that what you are going to do? Get another superintendent and get us to go through more changes. If that's the case, I don't want to support this new plan because the next superintendent will come and change things again. We are tired of changes and not seeing things get better for our students. For decades, we have changed it. If we are going to change the district, we better stick with the same plan so we can see some improvement as the years goes by. When we know that our superintendent is not delivering, that we start a national search. We spend thousands and thousands of dollars, money that we don't have, and that we could spend to provide better education for our kids, even though that we have qualified people in our own city. But we want to please some people, so we hire a person that only makes a lot of promises, and at the end of the day, the system has to buy their way out because they never deliver what they promise. So we go back to square one with the same stories, the same complaints. Our kids in the same situation, no improvement. The number of dropout is going up. The jails are packed with our kids because if our kids don't finish school, they are not successful. And if they end up selling drugs, working the street. This is happening here, and it's really hurting our kids. If the system hired an African-American superintendent, and the person is not working out, the African-American community protect that person, even if that superintendent is bad. If the system hired a white superintendent, and the person is not working out, the white community protect that person, even if that superintendent is bad. If the system hire a Latino superintendent, that as a matter of fact, we haven't had one since 1980s, we'll see Latinos protecting that person, even if the superintendent is bad. When we are going to learn that we are here to protect our kids, that our kids receive the best education possible, like the kids in the suburbs. In every city, we always have a controlling group, and that group believe that they have the right to control every system: housing, education, health, jobs, fire department, police department, that they have their hands in everything that happens in the city, and they control no matter what happens. Even the system is not fair and equal for all of us. And it happens especially in the education system because us, the parents, allow that to happen. It happens in every department, but we shouldn't allow it to happen in the school system. Those are our kids, and they are the ones that are getting hurt. For years and years, our education system has been a mess. In 2017, the education system hired a new superintendent. She was hired, although some politicians and some leaders have been up in arms, criticizing the process, criticizing the board, holding up the process even though it was a clean process, just because she's Puerto Rican. Even though more than 72% of the students are Latino, most Puerto Rican. She's very well educated with a lot of experience, a product of the school system, very well qualified, working with the Hartford school system, one of the top in the application pool. I never heard a person say she's not qualified, but yes, I heard it's not her time. Since when time is a qualification? But let's not forget that when a controlling group of politicians are trying to control everything, everything is possible because they are not looking for the best. They are looking to benefit a friend. They are looking to please a friend. And that very wrong because the parents shouldn't allow politics to be involved in the education. And that was another reason why they didn't want the new superintendent. Because she's not involved in politics, because she didn't have a godmother or godfather to push for her. But thanks to this new board that saw her as an educator and not a politician. Some that know the school system, know our issue, and is very committed to the betterment of every child in the system. That is why we have her as our new superintendent. She has been working on this plan that she believes will work. She's not making a deal with politicians. She is closing a building and not thinking who is the politician or friend who is losing the high rent of that building. She's not giving a contract to a politician in a school system doesn't need it, or to keep a politician or a friend happy. She is not wasting money to keep some people in position just to keep some politicians up front happy. Our superintendent is not about that. She's about changes, good changes. Ask about the score of a school, and you will see it doesn't make sense to keep a school open and spending over millions of dollars if the scores are very poor. Spending over $1 million and we don't see a good result. The kids are not reading to grade level. Very poor score in math in every single subject. The plan includes a middle school in each school district that the parents have been asking for. Instead of sending our kids to the suburb, we will keep our kids in our neighborhoods. Waking a kid up at 5 o'clock in the morning and putting them on the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning is criminal. The parents want to keep the kids in our neighborhood. We have school without music, art, and gym. And with these changes, we will have more resources. All the school can offer those programs and more after-school programs. We have what we have right now is not working. Let's give it a chance. Our is the same system the parents want for their kids. Do the parents want their kids to stay in the same system that has been failing, the same system that doesn't care if your kids are ready to go to college, the same system that is telling your kids that they are not college material? Teachers that come from the suburb and believe they have the right to decide for our kids, put them down, slap them around, and thinking.
Yeah, you can finish your sentence.
And thinking that they have the right, mistreating autistic kids because they don't know how to defend themselves, because they don't speak and they will never denounce a teacher or assistant that allowed their abuse.
All right, thank you so much.
And because my colleague is here, I think that he deserves 3 more minutes.
I don't think I would take 3 minutes, but I do like to say I agree with everything that my colleague was reading there. And I also would like to say that I do support this plan. I think it's a great plan. As a kid growing up in this city, back in the 60s, going into grammar school, and at that time we didn't have bilingual teachers. So it was tough. It was tough for us to learn. It was tough for our parents to communicate with those teachers. It was hard for us to learn. So maybe it's a little different this time around on what's happening, but it was hard back then, imagine now. But at least at that time, we were able to stay within our districts. We were able to stay in schools in Hartford. We were not shipped out. What I like to see is that our kids go to school here in Hartford, where they live in, where we got many, many single parents, many single mothers who struggle every day to make ends meet. They can't take time off of work. They can't leave early from work for the fact that they have to work to provide for their families. Yes. And when you send these kids out to the suburbs, you're making it harder on these single parents. Right. Yes. A lot harder. So with that, Leslie, I support your plan, and I'm 100% behind you, but I also say, like Dimari said, I will hold everyone accountable.
Yes. And that also goes with me, and I will ask the parents out there to ask for the scores and see how your school is doing, and then listen to the teachers. You have to hold every single teacher in the school system accountable for this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And this is what I'm here for.
Thank you. Andrea Johnson.
Good evening, Superintendent, board members. I am the proud president of the Hartford Federation of Teachers. We are here tonight at a crossing regarding closing some of Hartford's schools. I have been here on each occasion that school closings have been brought forward by the teachers, parents, students, and community members and leaders. The excellent reasons and incredible passion from a majority of people to not want any of our schools closed is incredible. We have had speakers as young as a second grade student also speaking about this matter, a matter that children have spoken to with their innocence and love for their school and the educators within that school. The idea of a family and the safety of a school and the need to be with other students that are friends brings this Board of Education into the heart of this matter. For teachers and parents, students, the feeling of a second home, of safety, of security is the main theme of the vast majority of those who spoke for the last 3 meetings. For older students, their teachers and friends were of course important, but more so the fact of how these older students changed as they reached high school age and showed how important it was to be in a school that helped them become who they are today. We have heard testimony of positive, enjoyable, safe feelings from those who are in the schools that are now being threatened to be closed. The question for you to answer as a Board of Education member, do you all really think you will be making a good decision for Hartford students if you close those schools they have begged you to keep open? Thank you.
Thank you. John Hall.
Good evening, Superintendent Torres Rodriguez, Chairman Stallings, and members of the Hartford's Board of Education. Like many of you, I am a proud graduate of Hartford Public Schools. I don't envy the decision you have to make today or in the future, I might add. Unfortunately, decisions that were made in the past have a direct impact on where we find ourselves today. The question is, how do we approach it? And sometimes in life, it's not about what we do, but how we do it. It seems that the issue of right-sizing our district is at the heart of this proposal, largely because the focus has been on who will be in the building as opposed to what will be happening inside them. We've asked the superintendent on several occasions, what is the right size? Because contrary to popular belief, we're not talking about just buildings. However, the question is, are we right-sizing our district for the present or for the future? There are powers at play that want to dismantle every Hartford Public School and don't care if it destabilizes any of our neighborhoods even further. The question before you today is whether this proposed plan is unknowingly complicit in the further destabilization and dismantling of our neighborhoods. From my purview, this plan creates a potentially vicious cycle. I see this plan creating what I refer to as false demand. So what is false demand? There are children and families, believe it or not, and they're present here today, that have no desire to attend a magnet school. They believe that our neighborhood schools have to be the backbones of our community in order for them to thrive. However, your proposal seemingly forces many of them to apply to a lottery they have no desire to be a part of. When this happens, from my perspective, the powers that be will cite this as increased demand and insist on even more magnet school and open choice opportunities, necessitating even further school closures because of reduced enrollment. I have a huge problem with this. Additionally, as a district, we ask our teachers to be everything and do everything for our students. So I understand the necessity of trying to gather all the necessary resources so we can make sure our students have the brightest future. What you have seen over the past month in our schools, communities demonstrating just that. We have heard people say, oh, you can just go to another school and do the same thing. However, as educators, we know that it takes time and patience to build trust with students and families. The one thing I hope you took to heart was the outpouring of love, support, and trust that these school communities have. The most disturbing, I would argue, and challenging part of this plan is that it creates holes in our community, holes in our neighborhoods. Communities that have seen a history of disinvestment. Everyone has heard the phrase food desert, where we have grocery stores, we don't have grocery stores in our neighborhoods that offer fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and so on and so forth. The challenge we face is whether or not we would be creating an education desert as a result of this plan. There are some who are celebrating this plan, and they're welcome to do that. I question why, when it has generated so much pain, anger, and trauma. As you all know, our communities have endured years of pain, anger, and trauma. The question is whether this plan alleviates it or exacerbates it. Thank you.
Shelley Naylor.
We first want to thank you, Superintendent Dr. Leslie Torres, for your dedication and commitment to the children in our district. We thank you for your vision. We support your efforts. And yes, we must change things. And we are moving forward. And yes, we must close schools. Today, the microphone of the hearts of our parents and students amplify. There was a video today from the children from Waverly, and it really touched my heart. Even though the lights are still on, and the building stands, Clark Street is closed. The children in that neighborhood must walk past that school to get to another school. Something so vital was taken away when Clark was closed. You nor the children have made the mistakes of the past that are placed with us today. To a community, Waverly School is vital. It is important. It is necessary. There are wraparound services for entire families. They have volunteers that come in. They have youth groups. It's a place where the family and the students have activities. It's a place of community, a heartbeat of the community, the pulse of the neighborhood, where dreams are made and achieved. And if you remove that pulse, if you remove that heartbeat, you may have removed life itself. You have removed the hope for some of these students without a school being in their neighborhood. The children deserve the opportunity to have a neighborhood school in their neighborhood. And so we support the excellence, we support the whole picture. The problem here is you're taking the community away out of the school. And we need to find a way to make sure that all of our students, and when we say all, we mean all of our students, can receive the services that they and their families need. And so with this proposal, what needs to be clarified is that these students, not one, not some, but all, will have the services and the supports that they need in this transition. And we too will continue to work with you, but we, as well as the parents, in the best interests of our children, will hold everybody accountable. Thank you.
For allowing me an opportunity to at least bring us up to speed on how we transpired. My name is Costa Diamantis. I work for the Department of Administrative Services, specifically the Office of School Construction Grants and Review. Of course, our purpose is to assist the various districts throughout the state of Connecticut in building and renovating the schools within their districts. Just as a brief side, there are roughly 1,223 schools in the state of Connecticut, over 100 million square feet of space. The cost of this space is roughly $36 billion. To rehab and recondition, if we were to do it at a regular pace over the next few years, it would be roughly about $1.5 billion a year. Currently, the state of Connecticut invests roughly $500 million a year now, and close in school construction programs, and another 100 to 200 million in code violation programs, roofs, emergencies, and all kinds of things. Since Commissioner Curry has taken over, one of the things that we've attempted to do is to understand what goes on in a district, be proactive with that district, and participate in a reorganization plan that they have, a consolidation plan that they have, looking at enrollment numbers, the programs that are needed within those schools, whether it be special ed, cafeteria programs, auditoriums, cafetoriums, and most importantly, to understand the various academic programs that exist. Even though academic programs, the style, the methods that we wish to teach can change. Buildings are funky. They're brick and mortar. They don't change as quickly as academic programs change. So when we in fact renovate and build schools, the academic program is very important to us to understand those needs. We hear people talking about magnet schools, Montessori programs, STEAM, STEM, art magnets, the list goes on. A new idea comes around, and a building has to adapt, and in order to adapt, it is expensive. We look at the programs that we think that the schools want, and we try to assist them. When we moved to 450 Columbus Boulevard, one of the things that struck me personally was looking at the various magnet programs that existed in Hartford, the various chef issues, the choice issues in Hartford, and the fact that there were schools in the magnet program with empty seats, and Hartford children were going to schools ill-equipped to compete with the schools that were being built as magnets. As a result, the Office of School Construction Grants, in partnership with the State Department of Education, worked with the superintendent and members of the board to work through a consolidation plan in the sense that we recognize that the district is 35% too big. We recognize that based on the number of buildings and the cost per square foot of those buildings, money was being wasted not on children where it should be going, but on trying to keep 35% heavier load of buildings, too many buildings, and keep them afloat rather than reinvesting in school children. It represents roughly $15 million of reinvestment into black box theaters, into auditoriums, into books, into theater programs, into sports. It is unheard of that the capital city does not have an adequate facility for athletics that is CIAC eligible. Unheard of, unacceptable. The State Department, DAS, and the school construction has committed itself to assisting the the school board here and the superintendent in facilitating its plan, whatever it may be. In choosing what building to close is based in somewhat on the condition of the building, not on the academic program of the building, but on what the needs are of that particular building. Our purpose is to create equity throughout the district. The plans, of course, are developed by the board and the teachers and the principals in collaboration. We have been collaborating over the last 9 months to provide the financial resources necessary. Please note, I saw shirts today with MLK. When MLK was first brought on, we rejected the program going forward. It wasn't prepared. There wasn't a plan to move forward with all of the schools in Hartford. That changed. When that changed, not only did Weaver proceed as a complete project, so has MLK. And now we've taken it further. We're looking at a complete plan that we are certainly invested in to assist the city of Hartford so that it has a complete program in schools that are equitable across the board. We do not want to see a magnet program have more than a neighborhood school. We do not want to see chef schools have more than the Hartford schools, whichever ones they may be. All children should have access to all programs. That is our commitment to whatever the board decides to do today. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn Vargas.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Leslie Rodriguez-Torres. My name is Carolyn Vargas, and I'm a resident of Hartford. I am a mother of 4 boys, 3 which attend the Hartford Public Schools. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. It's the first time I'm on camera and stuff. I support Leslie Torres Rodriguez for a bunch of reasons. The first one is like cleaning a building, cleaning the house. You need to start first in your community. As you clean the building, you will learn that you can balance the budget instead of gaining more and more and more money. Every year, you're going to be spending more money. We need to first settle the big budget that you guys have high. I am the president of the PTO at McDonough Middle School, and I feel for the schools that are closing, and I understand their part too. But I am here to support our community. I see it as the kids need to be in unity. I'm tired of us being divided. All these divisions is causing our youth to go away. A lot of parents are like, oh, Hartford is bad, you know, but what are you doing? What are you doing to help the community? You need to be involved. You need to support every one of our community members, the neighborhood. It's not like they're going to leave the students out of place. Together we are stronger, and if the parents get more together in the community, starting PTOs, SGCs, maybe you can help a little more our community. I'm a little nervous, sorry. So as I said, I feel for the other schools, and I do understand it. But we need to move forward. We need to stop getting stuck at the same place, whether it should have been or what could have been. We need to move forward and see what she has to offer us, and I support her plan. I've seen a lot of visions that I imagine would happen. Like unify PTOs, unify our neighborhood, come together. because I do see a big division. I believe that you will not regret her decision. I honestly can say that for the first time I'm speaking here, but I always been one of the ones sitting back there. What moved me was your plan. When I seen your vision and the plan and the unity that will happen and how we can help with the budget somehow, it will clean our building as per se, like the whole community, but also from there we can start with the resources. It's not going to be left, hopefully, unattended. Sorry, I'm a little nervous because
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
I thank you, and I have a billion thoughts in my head. It just went away right now, but it's a lot of reasons why, and I do see your vision, and I see myself in the community, with the students, with the kids, all in unity, and hopefully drug-free, and as in like stores and outside and all that stuff. I think it'll bring us more together. Because it's not like you're going to be you won't have a school. You're going to have a community school. You'll have a neighborhood school. And I support you, Leslie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Delaney. Patricia Delaney.
Hi, members of the board, I'm Patricia Delaney. I'm from Batchelder School, and I thank you for letting us have another opportunity to chat with you this evening. We are here tonight to follow up the process that you are using in your voting for the superintendent's plan. As elected and appointed officials who are voting tonight on this superintendent's plan, we intend to note who is voting, we intend to note how you're voting. But most importantly, our expectation tonight is that you enter into a very lively discussion, not just getting up there and say, how do you all vote, boom, 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 and down the board. What we're looking for tonight is for you to have a good discussion. Last night you heard 500 or more people speaking and talking to you. Those people count, and their suggestions, their thoughts, their ideas deserve your time to ponder and to think about. So I ask tonight that as you do this, we hear, as we brought up last night, Plan A, Plan B, but I don't hear any discussion of anything other than Plan A. So I think that's for consideration this evening. We need to look at other options, and I hope that the discussion is lively and thoughtful. Also, we ask tonight that you separate Batchelder School from your discussion. You had 12 schools, as I pointed out last evening, 12 schools that were on the closing list. And I think we were clear, and I'm sure you felt that as well, that Batchelder School is not closing. This is not a school that you designed to close. This is a school that you put in place and that you plan to kick out our children. I'm sorry, I can't think of any other gentler word, and I've searched for it. But you're kicking out our children and you're replacing them with suburban children. Our school is 92% Hispanic, 8% African American. They are being replaced with Caucasian and Asian students from the suburbs who now, by doing this, you have sent a message to our children that they don't count because of their color. This is wrong. This is looking at civil rights being violated as we are being kept segregated and placed in crowded schools. We are placing 437 students in 4 schools. If I do the math sort of broadly, I count about 110 children per school. That's a lot of students to enter another school. Please, we implore you, do not set a precedent by doing this, by kicking out neighborhood schools and replacing them with magnet schools. Next time, this could happen to any of our other schools that are here tonight. We worry that they could be next. All the people that dressed here tonight in purple, I speak to them. I know that they're saying all children count. We do all count. All neighborhood schools count. The students at Batchelder count. We need to understand that as we move forward and not set a precedent that could be followed again. Hartford students should not be pushed out for suburban students to take their places. And I will not go through this again other than to remind you, this is what's happening with Sheff versus O'Neill and magnets. Your numbers are going down and you're faltering. We need to say, please remember that 40% of Hartford students are at magnet schools, while 60% are being pushed into crowded, segregated schools. I understand, I truly understand that you have this very tough job and we have to close schools, but this isn't the way to do it. I implore you to pull out Batchelder School as separate and look at how we can change that one piece in the cog that says our kids don't count. Please think carefully tonight. Before neighborhood schools, plan carefully before you shove neighborhood schools out. Please help fight for their civil rights and their equity. That's what I hear you talking about there. These kids count. Don't let us go any further with this plea. Let it end here with your vote and a careful look at the pattern you're setting when you're thinking of closing a neighborhood school and putting in magnet schools that don't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Geneva Williams.
Good evening, Superintendent and board members. My name is Geneva Williams. I am a very proud, retired Hartford School teacher. And many of you are probably wondering, well, why is she here? What dog does she have in this fight? Well, I'll tell you. I retired recently, well, 3 years ago, almost 4, from Simpson Waverly School. A very unique neighborhood school with loving, caring teachers who not only are there between the regular 6-hour workday, but are there 6:30 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. We have many, many unique programs there at Simpson Waverly School. Before school programs, after school programs, teachers are there on Saturdays, all to bring about the essence and the culture of family, connectiveness, and love. Now, I understand that this is about funding, the dream, the initiative of the board, which I think is wonderful. I've seen schools change. Like I said, almost 40 years of working in the Hartford system. 33 years as a teacher. Change is difficult. Change is not always bad. But when you're looking at change, we also have to think about the families who are going to be impacted by this change. I support those who are in favor of the superintendent's vision, but I also support those and have lived through it and enjoy and understand the benefits of a community, preferably a neighborhood school. There's family, there's a connectiveness. Children can either walk or bicycle. We have very strong community partners there at Simpson Waverly. While I was there, we started a health fair because we knew that many of our kids were tardy because they spent time in the emergency rooms or families that were ill. We wanted to do something to invest in our families. Myself and other like-minded teachers there gave of their time and started the first health fair there. We only had probably 100 people there with the 10 service providers. This past year, we had over 1,000 people within the community. This was only possible for the hard work that the teachers, along with the parents, the Family Resource Center, and the children. They went door to door passing out pamphlets and posters. Teachers spent endless hours planning along with the parents. I can't say too much for the parents. The school not only educates the children, but it also educates the parents. And this is what we need. We need children and families that are healthy so that they all can be very ambitious learners. Not to say that this cannot be done in a magnet school, because it can. My children go to magnet schools. But the essence of a neighborhood school is vital for our community, especially within the north end of Hartford. Simpson Waverly is a landmark. Simpson Waverly School is a catalyst of that community. And hopefully, you will understand the essence and the plea from the parents, but if not, let there be dignity in the transition. Let there be time for the parents to spend, I don't know what schools you're sending them to, but let there be time for transition. Let them visit the school, let them shadow. Hopefully the teachers can go along with them. We're talking about lives. And for many of the children there, they have been there since pre-K. Thank you very much for listening. And we just appreciate you listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Downs.
Good evening, board members. I'm Michael Downs. I live at 74 Rosemont Street in Hartford. And as such, I'm a representative of the northeast section of Hartford and its neighborhoods and its schools. I first would like to welcome Ms. Clark and Ms. Brody to the board, and also congratulate Mr. Stallings and Mr. Hernandez on their re-election. I support them all in many of their endeavors. And Ms. Brody used to be a substitute teacher at one point, as I remember. She taught over with me over at Clark School. I want to speak first on Weaver. For 20 years, we've been renovating Weaver. They put bars underneath and they put all sorts of things around. Finally, let's get on the final plan and let's get going and finish the project. It's just been going too long. We need a proficient plan, but I think you may have one. Just get it going and pass it, get it going, and finish the job. That will make things a lot easier for whatever plan comes. Change is never easy. In fact, for 25 years, we've been going through change. I've seen all sorts of changes, the heart ripped right out of the system, and still no improvement in test scores. So we always rushed right into that, gotta have a change. Well, it's all right to have a plan, but you might not want to rush to judgment. You might want to hold off just a little bit and see where it goes. I think that we ought to combine a lot of our magnet schools with our neighborhood schools. That's how it was originally set up. Some of the magnet schools, such as Annie Fisher, have to accept 50% of their population comes from the neighborhood. So that maybe should be for all magnet schools and all neighborhood schools. It would certainly help to improve the neighborhood schools and as well as the magnet schools, because the things that I've been saying were ripped out of the system, such as no vocational technical education, no middle schools, art, music, library, phys ed, things like that, social workers. They don't have complete. They don't have that those complete things in the magnet schools either. They don't have everything that they need in the magnet schools. They don't have a phys ed program. Some of them have phys ed programs, some don't. Some have sports programs, some don't. The neighborhood schools are lacking in that area. These criticisms aren't meant to be negative. I hope they're positive. The recommended closings, you've already closed Clark School. I've been in this system almost 40 years, and every year on the block is the Dwight Building. It was built in 1870, planned during the Civil War. Maybe it's time to make it a museum, but it should be closed as a school. I just also I want to say finally that on renovations, all the money we spent on renovations, all the money we spent on on building new schools, it's a travesty that we have to spend $52 million on a school building that we own in East Hartford. I hope we're not closing schools to make the mayor look good for his run for governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Latoya Martindale.
Good evening, Superintendent, Chairman, and board members. I am here as a mother of 5, a resident of North Hartford's Stowe Village, and a teacher at Simpson Waverly School. And I'd like to speak for the unspoken on today. Simpson Waverly School is slated to be closed, and I'm asking the board to reconsider that vote. Simpson Waverly sits tucked in Hartford's North End, a little-known secret of greatness. So many things have happened in Simpson Waverly that have enriched my lives and the lives of the students that I teach every day. While working at Simpson Waverly, what makes me most proud is that I live down the street from my school, and my students can say, "Miss Martindale, I saw you walking your dog. Miss Martindale, I saw you mowing your lawn." As a former resident of New York City, where most of the teachers live in Long Island, I have never been able to say, I've seen my teacher in my neighborhood. I've seen my teacher in the same stores that I shop at. I've seen my teacher at the same laundromat that I go to. But these students have that. I'm not the only person at Simpson Waverly who lives in North Hartford, and I'm not saying that you have to live in North Hartford to make an impact. Everybody can't live in Hartford, but I think it's a blessing that these students can see that their teacher lives in Stowe Village. Now, I've heard stories about Stowe Village, the old Stowe Village. I've never lived in it. I lived in New York City, but what makes me proud is that those students can say, if Stowe Village is good enough for my teacher, and my teacher lives in Stowe Village, then I can be great too. While working at Simpson Waverly, my students have made me great, and Simpson Waverly has in turn made me great. At Simpson Waverly, I've been able to step outside the box to do things that I've never done. I don't even speak in public, and I'm doing that on today. I've been able to act in a play with Act Up Theater that I've never done with my daughter and my students this year. I've had my first mammogram at a health fair at Simpson Waverly. I've joined the leadership team at Simpson Waverly. It is a powerhouse, and if you close it, that's going to be detrimental to the students and the families in the North End. We already are paying for the sins of the fathers for far too long. We have so many blighted and vacant properties in the North Hartford that it's terrible. The Swift factory across the street from our school, they may have painted the windows, but it's vacant and it's surrounded by barbed wire. Clark School is vacant and surrounded by barbed wire. And now we're going to add a third building vacant and surrounded by barbed wire. Who will want to come to North Hartford when all they see is vacant properties and barbed wire? That's my neighborhood, so it's vested, it's personal, it's near and it's dear to me. For years since I've come to Simpson Waverly, I've been wondering, when is the park in when is the playscape in Keeney Park going to get repaired? It finally got repaired. It just opened this year, and now families of North Hartford are going to have to send their children past a vacant and blighted property, because that's exactly what's going to happen, to enjoy a park. I urge you to reconsider this vote and think about the impact that it's going to have on families. Thank you.
Thank you. Raquel Calderon.
Good evening, Dr. Torres, and good evening, Board of Directors. I guess I don't have much to say. I heard it all. The only thing that worries me a lot is that if you close some schools, where are we going to place those children? As it is, I see some schools that they have 28 students in one classroom and they don't have enough staff to help the children, and that's why I'm very worried. I read this course here, and I think it's because we need more staff. 28 students is too many students for one teacher with no paraprofessional to help them. So please reconsider in closing the schools and do something else and keep the communities together. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Terry Stringer.
Madam Superintendent, Mr. Chairman, and the board, before I talk, do I have permission to approach and play my music after I get done? My song.
It's going to be within 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's a minute and 30 seconds. I thought I had all that. Okay. A lot to absorb. I assimilate facts quickly. It's like my second meeting in in-depth listening. There's a lot to unpack. I'd need about a week of dinner with each of you to tell you what I think, so I don't have that. The word Titanic comes to mind. It's the story of the ship that was coming across and it couldn't sink. It did sink, as we know, on tax day, actually. And when it was sinking, the people were fighting for the lifeboats. That's what I'm kind of hearing right here. The schools are pitting themselves against each other, the districts. You know, I was a little disappointed to see people leaving after they support it, not to hear the pain of those who maybe don't support it, but want to stay their side. So that to me is symbolic of where this could go, and I hope it doesn't with the board as they enact this plan. The acronym is RMS, Titanic, and that's about what it was about, the Royal Mail ship. It was about the cargo. What was in the bottom of the ship was more important than the rich people, middle class, and the poor. So I'm concerned about that. Facts about Simpson Waverly. I told you last time he was the first civil rights employee in America. His daughter, Ann Simpson Jennings, is the wife of the first policeman, black policeman, killed in the line of duty in Hartford, Connecticut Jennings Road is named after him. I don't know if you knew that. So when you start thinking about the history, he and a fellow named Jenkins were the first to develop an independent social club for black kids on Main Street in Hartford, and Camp Bennett as well. That's history. And so you start thinking about Simpson Waverly. I want you to think about that when you do what you do. The thing that's a little insulting to me is that for all the years that's been said before me, the area has been neglected financially, given low budget, and now it's told it's a part of the budget to make this plan work. So the insult is increased. So I want you to think about that, what that makes those people think about for themselves. So if you could help us by putting a education lamp in Hartford and making sure that that area doesn't give way to a systematic removal of its education institutions, I would appreciate that. Because if you don't do that, then we'll have to perhaps train more police officers, and that's not a good idea. The song that I'm going to play is a song that the kids sang. The choir not going to ask them to come because they couldn't make it. It's hard for them to get here. But I'm going to play this song because it's directed to you, and it's entitled, he told me I could move the mic. The engineer gave me permission to move his mic. And I want to put it in front of the boombox so that you hear this and I'm done.
If this were true, let's play pretend. I'm your child. And Waverly, that's my school. What would you do if this were true? Would you help me? Would you save it? The school is in our neighborhood. That's where we live and where I play. What would you do if this were true? Would you help me? Would you save it? Can we play pretend? Can we play pretend? Can we play pretend? Would you help me? Would you save me? Can we play pretend?
Thank you. Douglas McCrory.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me? Good? All right. Well, good evening, Board of Education. First of all, I'd like to say that I don't envy the position that you're in, but I do appreciate that each and every last one of you have made a commitment to be members of this Board of Education and do the ultimate job, which is to make sure our children receive a quality education. That's a tough job, and this work is not easy, and especially it's not easy if you are dedicated to the children in this city, and we know the demographics of those children. I'll just say I'll introduce myself to some. I don't come to board meetings often, maybe once in the last 3-4 years, but I do want to make a statement. I represent North Hartford, Bloomfield, and Windsor. I'm a 26-year educator. in the state of Connecticut. I spent my first 18 years in the city of Hartford as a teacher and eventually as an administrator. I live in the north end of Hartford on Blue Hills Avenue. I never thought that I would leave the city of Hartford as an educator. I knew my position would last at least 35 years. However, after 18 years, I got fed up and tired of the system. A system that didn't give us an opportunity to properly educate our children. Year after year after year, I saw many superintendents come into our community and try to tell us what was best for our children. And literally, they destroyed the Hartford school system. Was it perfect? No. But because they didn't understand the history and the complexities and didn't work with the communities, they came in with their plans on their high horses and left. And now you're left to clean it up. No one wants to see their school closed. And it's very difficult for change. But I heard a lot about neighborhood schools, magnet schools, and charter schools. I'm for all of them. I'm for all of them. But more importantly, I am for schools that actually educate our children. I'm more important than what the results of the schools are. Just because it's in your neighborhood and your children aren't learning, that's not good. And just because it's a magnet school and you're sending your children out to a suburban school district that may or may not even want them in the first place, that's not good. The reality is these parents in here want change, and they want options, and they want what's best for our children. We have a superintendent that's from this community that came up and was properly educated in this system, who understands the dynamics, the history, and the culture. It's very important that we give her an opportunity to do her job and stand by it. No one's gonna be happy. I'm a politician. I never get my way all the time. But at the end of the day, we have to make structural changes in the way we deliver education for our children. I will just end with this. You're in a tough situation here in Hartford because really, a lot of this is our state fault. Because the state of Connecticut never had the political will after the Brown versus Board of Education decision in '54 to desegregate our schools in the state of Connecticut. We did nothing. We did nothing. And even today, we don't have the political will to do more. So you're challenged to do what we don't do at the state level. So again, I don't envy you, but I know it's gonna be tough, but you have to be ready for change. And we have to support someone who understands our children, who understands these communities, and who wants what's best for our families. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment.
Thank you so much. So at this point, what we're going to do is take a 10-minute break. Some members have to go to the bathroom, so we're going to just break for 10 minutes and come right back. Thank you.
Hello, I am your proud superintendent, Dr. Leslie Torres Rodriguez. I am leading the crucial process of reimagining and restructuring our school district. I need you, all of you, to be significant partners in our process. We are doing this imperative work to deliver on our commitment to ensure improved student outcomes and equitable access to resources for each and every one of our beautiful and capable students. When we have completed this process together, we will hold in our hands a stronger, more equitable school district designed to serve all students well, a plan built by the entire community that will benefit the entire community. We at Hartford Public Schools are coordinating the process, but you, the community, families, students, teachers, and all of our stakeholders are the voices and the minds that must inform this work. By sharing your thoughts, you will help to co-create our district model. Our work together, which takes place over the coming months in community meetings with families, partners, and schools, will culminate in the presentation of recommendations for district models for excellence, different ways in which the district can be reimagined while ensuring the health and viability of our neighborhoods, and continuing to provide access to opportunities and services for our families and students. For news about meetings and ongoing updates on our process, please visit our district website at www.hartfordschools.org.
Call to order. Call to order. So, in keeping with the agenda, we are going to move into item number 5, which are reports. I am going to skip my chair report for today. And so, Madam Superintendent.
I have a brief report. Am I on?
Yeah.
I have a brief report. Good evening, everyone. As you know, last year, in my role as acting superintendent, I developed an action plan in response to the Office of the Child Advocate's report to address systemic failures to keep our students safe in schools. We did contract with 4 Points Education Partners, a national firm, to serve as our independent monitor to monitor our implementation of the action plan. We have received the first report from the independent monitor, and as I promised transparency throughout the process, we have posted the report on our website, and we have also disseminated the report to our staff and to all of our partners electronically. The independent monitor team is currently conducting their site visit, and they're scheduled to run through January 25th. So during this site visit, they will be interviewing many individuals, including our school-based leaders. They're going to be conducting parent focus groups as part of with the Hartford Parent Leadership Council, and they're going to present the report findings during the first meeting of our monitoring advisory group. And so I appreciate everyone's partnership and collective interest as we respond and hold ourselves accountable for the safety of our students. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to committee reports. So we're going to skip the finance report and school choice and facilities report because they were pretty small, and we're going to go off the, this is not on your agenda, but we're going to have a report from policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the policy committee didn't actually meet in the month of January. We were snowed out, but I did get to meet one-on-one with Michelle Pulick, and we talked a little bit about our work ahead for 2018. We're going to use human dignity as a theme for the work that we do on policy committee. Dignity as a revolutionary act, really thinking about the ways that we address student needs, the way that we treat our families within our system, and do that through policy. So making sure that what's written on the paper is something that can give human dignity to the people that we serve, right? Also this evening, we're going to be bringing up for a second read a policy on non-discrimination for both personnel and for students. Really what we did here was we changed some of the statutory language that talked about pregnancy as a disability. We took that out. We also talked a little bit about gender identity and expression and genetic information, really just leaving some room for more progressive language in terms of like gender identity and expression. in line with state statute. So we want to make sure that we're not ahead of the curve in terms of progress. We can't do things that are unprecedented, but we also want to make sure that we're ready to accept changes as they come down with state statute. So this evening you're going to have for a second read policies on non-discrimination for both personnel and for students. I'll read a little bit for the student policy, and the one about personnel is really similar, but it just talks about the same things in regards to employment practices, right? So the Board of Education complies with all applicable federal, state, and local laws prohibiting exclusion of any person from any of its educational programs or activities, or the denial to any person of the benefits of any of its educational programs or activities because of race, religion, color, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, marital status, age, disability, pregnancy, veteran status, gender identity or expression, genetic information, or any other basis prohibited by state or federal law, subject to the conditions and limitations established by law. It is the policy of the board that any form of discrimination or harassment on the basis of race, religion, color, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, marital status, age, disability, pregnancy, veteran status, gender identity or expression, genetic information, or any other basis prohibited by state or federal law is prohibited whereby students, board employees, or third parties subject to the control of the board. The board's prohibition of discrimination or harassment in its educational programs or activities expressly extends to academic, non-academic, and extracurricular activities, excuse me, including athletics. It is also the policy of the board to provide for the prompt and equitable resolution of complaints alleging any discrimination on the basis of the aforementioned protected characteristics. For the purposes of this policy, gender identity or expression means a person's gender-related identity, appearance, or behavior, whether or not that gender-related identity, appearance, or behavior is different from that traditionally associated with the person's physiological or assigned sex at birth, consistent with state law. And we made sure we added that consistent with state law piece, as I said, to be, progressive. On the policy committee, we try to be. So that's coming up for a second read. It really is imperative that we accept it. Policy committee is trying to move along some of these policies that are related to safety, and this is just one of the many. Coming up next will be harassment, so it's really critical that we accept this evening. If you have any questions, please do let me know.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. And so that is going to conclude our committee reports. However, we do have a student report from our resident scholar, Alexa Murata. So, by all means, Ms. Murata.
Thank you. On January 10th, the Student Senate gathered to talk about future plans and to discuss what is happening in our schools. To start off the meeting, everyone went around the table and shared one important thing that's taking place at their school right now. Some students shared their concerns on school consolidation. These concerns came from global communication and Capital Prep students, as they were worried about what it entailed for them and their future. Other students mentioned that their school is starting a restorative justice team. Restorative justice focuses on mediation and fixing the problem between the victim and the offender. Schools such as Global, Capital, and HMTCA are gathering student leaders to help solve conflicts through peer mediation rather than giving students detention or suspensions. It is a new way for schools to solve conflicts. Restorative justice makes sure that the students recognize his or her mistake and talks about it with the community. During this meeting, students shared how implementing restorative justice into their schools was going. From what was gathered, it is getting off to a good start. After sharing our stories, the Student Senate talked about upcoming projects. The first project is our volunteer project at the Hartford Hospital. Each representative will have a toy drive at their school to collect stuffed animals, cards, and other items. These toys will be given to children at the hospital on Valentine's Day. The Student Senate also talked about creating a flyer for the Trinity Hip Hop Festival. This flyer will include information about the Hartford Citywide Student Senate and how we use our voice. Another new project is the Teen Night, which is on February 3rd. Teen Night will take place at the Connecticut Science Center. This event allows teens from ages 13 to 18 to have an exciting night exploring all levels of the Science Center. The Student Senate looks forward to participating and helping out at Teen Night. We hope to encourage teens to use their voices and to talk about issues that matter to them. In addition, the Student Senate met with the Superintendent. Dr. Torres answered our questions about school consolidations. We also discussed having high school students helping parents and children who have to relocate or find a new school. We would like to help them choose the right school for them. We also shared with our Student Senate, our Student Senate motto, which is, we as the Hartford Public Schools Citywide Student Senate strive to improve and unify the Hartford Public Schools system through student voice and interaction throughout the community. Hartford Public Schools Citywide Student Senate wants to pave the road for more student success. Thank you for allowing me to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that concludes reports. So we're moving on to item number 6, business agenda. Ms. Oliver?
I move to take the items out of order, please.
For the record, Ms. Oliver is exercising a point of privilege, and you're taking what out of order?
The items out of order.
Oh, yes. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Second. Is there a motion moved? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. So we're going to take this agenda out of order. And what are you proposing?
I would like to go to the consent agenda, and I move that we remove item number 6 from the consent agenda.
All right. Is there a motion to remove item 6 out of the consent agenda? Is there a motion? Is it moved in second?
Yeah.
It's been moved in second. All in favor of taking item number 6 out of the consent agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Item 6 has been removed from consent. Do you want to put this on the business agenda? What are you doing?
Also, Mr. Chair, I move that we table agenda items number 2 and items number 4 and new item, I guess, which would be number 5, which was formerly number 6 on the consent agenda.
Okay. For the record, there's a motion to table items number 2, 4, and 6 of the consent agenda, which is now 5.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. So these items have been tabled to the next meeting. And now that brings us back to item number 1. Approval of District Model of Excellence Restructuring Recommendations, School Closures. The Hartford Public Schools is committed to ensuring and improve student outcomes and equitable access to resources for each and every one of our students while facing unique challenges including deep student needs, persistently low student performance, and declining enrollment. To that end, Superintendent Torres Rodriguez has embarked on a reimagining and restructuring process for our district, guided by 4 principles heard from the community: great teaching, learning in every school, safe and equitable access to great schools and pathways, extended family and community engagement, extended family and community partnerships, and fiscal sustainability. The board was presented with restructuring recommendations and opportunities on the December 19th, 2017 meeting. These recommendations were informed by an in-depth district comprehensive study and expansive engagement of staff and the community to gather input regarding priorities. As a part of the restructuring recommendations, schools have been recommended for closure per school closing policy 3600, required by board approval. The Hartford Board of Education approves the closure of the schools listed below and restructuring recommendations and as delineated in the district model of excellence of recommendations attached. A Lewis W. Batchelder Elementary School, B. Capital Community College Magnet Academy, C. John C. Clark Elementary School, and D. Dr. Frank T. Simpson Waverly Elementary School. Dr. Torres. Rodriguez, excuse me.
Thank you, Chairman Stallings. I'd like to address the community.
Proceed.
So as superintendent, the Board of Education charged me with bringing recommendations forward to address the many urgent concerns, deep student needs, persistent low student performance, declining enrollment, decreasing resources, and inequities between schools in terms of resources, opportunities, and outcomes. The answer clearly is not easy and cannot be answered by a small group of people implementing decisions that only affect one piece of the puzzle. The answer does lie within all of us through our collective voice, passion, responsibility, and commitment. As a board, you ask that I engage and communicate, that I have a process that ensures voice and keeps stakeholders informed, that I conduct a comprehensive study in alignment with the policy, that I gather and analyze data and information to create a common fact base and better understand existing resources, people, time, money, understand our challenges and the potential opportunities, and that I put forward recommendations. Recommendations that address our challenges, that ensure all students have equitable access to high-quality education, developmentally appropriate academic programs, rigorous teaching and learning, and help us to use the resources more impactfully and responsibly. We have a choice. We do have a choice. We can stay as we are. We can stay with our current configuration. That is an option for us. We have a choice not to make any changes. We have a choice to say that what has and will continue to happen to all of our students is okay in terms of their academic outcomes. That is a choice that we have. We also have a choice to tinker around the edges, as we have done in the past over the years. As your superintendent, I ethically and morally will not do that. We must make change. I believe and can relate to our students and this community. We can do this together. It will require an expectation of excellence for all of us, not just teachers and leaders, students, central office staff, the board, our community partners. I see you out there. Higher ed is here with us tonight. Faith-based leaders, our elected officials, other state agencies, our parents, funders. They're here tonight. I know that education does change lives. I know that for a fact. Our current state is not what our students deserve. It is time to change. All of our students are counting, not just on myself, but on all of us, to make those tough decisions that are necessary so that we can deliver on our imperative. Brighter, healthier, and prosperous futures for our students, for their families, and for this city as a whole. That is my comment for tonight.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. And so is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
It's been moved and is seconded. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any comment by anyone on this particular item?
I'd like to.
Mr. Flores?
As most of my colleagues know, that I came to the board after many years of work as a parent advocate and educator of parents and SGC chair. I have two boys who went through the public school system, Colon Sanchez, Burns, McDonough, HFTCA, and Pathways. I can say that it absolutely broke my heart when my boys moved into magnet schools and they struggled because they were not prepared. And I can't blame the teachers in their former schools. I believe that we have excellent teachers in each of our schools, but they cannot do their job if we don't provide them with the right resources. Our friend and partner, Casa Diamante, spoke quite eloquently about the issue relevant to facilities and the budget impact. So I'm not going to repeat any of that, but I will say that this plan is the reason why I came onto this board. To get to a point where we can take some resources that we are wasting on unused facilities and direct them to our schools so that we no longer have an inequity where magnet school children are getting more resources than our neighborhood school children. So I encourage all of my colleagues to support this plan. My corporate experience, my professional experience also as a banker and as a pastor, and I have looked at the plan through all of these lenses, and I am hearty to support it, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Mr. Hernandez.
All right. Sorry, I feel that was really loud. I wanted to speak a little bit about what I'm going to do with my vote and why. As one of the 4 elected members of the Hartford Board of Education, you all deserve a reasoning. So I will be supporting the superintendent's plan tonight for a few different reasons. The first reason is I'm looking forward to the discussions that are about to happen, very much. For example, as a member of the Teaching and Learning Committee, I am looking forward and engaging in conversations around a culturally relevant curriculum that is gonna be inclusive of all of our students. What does that mean? That means that our students, Hartford Public School students, will be learning about people that look like them and have represented them. That means that while they might be learning about Christopher Columbus, they're also going to be learning about Bayard Rustin. They're also going to be learning about, obviously, Dr. King. They're obviously going to be learning about those people whose shoulders we stand on today. That's the first reason. We need to be talking about curriculum as a part of this, and we will be. That's a guarantee. Second, I think it's completely inappropriate for our students, and again, this is programmatic. I believe it's inappropriate for our students to be starting school at 7:30 in the morning, 8 in the morning. I don't know about you all. As an adult, as a 26-year-old, I can't function at 7:30 in the morning. I just can't. I don't think I can expect our elementary school kids, our middle school kids, our high school kids to function that early in the morning. We need to be thinking about better school start times that work better for our students. That's the second reason. The third reason, part of what's going to happen now is we're actually going to be able to supply our students with the things that they deserve. One of those things that I've been very passionate about that my board members are probably getting tired of hearing me speak about, some of you have heard me speak about it, I have a meeting about it on Thursday, is sports. Our kids want to play sports. As our friend from the state mentioned, we currently don't have a single field that meets the requirements by CIAC. That is disgusting. Disgusting. The fact that because of our limited resources, we have to send kids to other schools to play, that is disgusting. It is horrendous. I really, really believe that we are doing such a huge disservice to our students by limiting them in that way. So sports, that's another reason. The other reason, I have a couple more, I promise I'm almost done. The other reason is our teachers. I agree 100% with Mr. Flores. I believe we have amazing teachers. I believe every single teacher wants to do and is trying their hardest. But when our resources are spread out so thin, they are very limited. Very, very, very limited, and we cannot expect them to go we expect them to go above and beyond, but we can't expect them to do something that is almost impossible of them because of the resources that we are giving them as a Board of Education right now. So hopefully this plan, and I do believe it will provide those resources to those teachers so that they can keep being amazing teachers. Our students obviously love their teachers. So why can't we treat them the same way? That's what I'm hoping we do now. So some of this has already been talked about, but I'm hoping that part of the programmatic offerings that we start talking about, and I know our student representative talked about this, I'm very happy she did, a strong restorative justice approach at all of our schools. All of our schools. That means that we have our students engaging in conversations around the way that we handle discipline and the way that we handle in-school and out-of-school suspension specifically, right? I'm very passionate about this, and I believe that we are doing a huge disservice against our students, especially our young black and brown men. They are being pushed out of schools throughout the country and into prison, into jail. I am a proud Latino man, a proud Puerto Rican man, and I think it is, again, horrendous that we're doing that to our kids. Two more, and I'm done. We know that some of these decisions that we're going to be voting on today are going to be tough. Madam Superintendent, I know that as I vote, and I hope that we vote to support the recommendations put in front of us today, I do want to stress the importance that as you begin to mobilize your teams to implement these recommendations, that whatever new academic reality comes to the existing building at Batchelder be made available to as many neighborhood students as possible. I can't stress that enough. And then my final reasoning is something that I think we should look at too, is I know that you've developed a deep partnership with the state. As you could see from, I told the gentleman earlier that in my year here on the board and in my short time coming to Board of Education meetings, I haven't seen the state this involved. I really haven't. But what I'm hoping is that with that partnership, I'd like for you to explore adding the Goodwin branch of the library that was recently closed down, bring it into the Batchelder building going forward. And I think that that's something that the state is going to be supportive about. And I think that we as a board will support that, and hopefully the city council and the mayor can support that as well. So those are my reasonings. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Any other comment? Ms. Brody?
Thank you, Chairman. The feel that I have tonight after I've heard a number of speakers speak, I got the feel that our teachers were just not valued. Like, it's like achievement is what we're looking at. We need to close the school based on achievement. And I'm trying to make it clear that that's not the case. And it's particularly hard for me because the community I come from has already been hit with many blows. I come from the community that Clark is in. I come from the community that Simpson Waverly is in. I come from a community that has been overlooked for many years. It's easy for politicians to come and speak on schools that are not in their district. This is very, very, very hard. I was a substitute teacher for 4 years. I was thrown into the fire quite a few times, and I had some wonderful teachers that welcomed me and supported me to be successful long-term on quite a few of those occasions. So I value what the teachers do, and when you're not in the classroom, you have no idea what happens. We are here to make sure children are successful. That's why I believe we all sit up here. That's our commitment. But we have to keep in mind that if we do not give teachers what they need, students will never be successful.
Are you done? Thank you, Ms. Brody. Ms. Clark? Mrs. Clark, excuse me.
So I wanted to first thank everyone who actually came out to speak. And I wanted to say over the last couple of weeks, the days are getting mixed up, but that we heard your cry. I heard your cry. I can't speak for everyone, but I heard your cry, and I hear the communities that are there, the communities that potentially might be affected by the approval of this vote. So I do want to first state that I did hear that, and my heart is with those communities that potentially might be affected by this. Now, with me and my vote, with me, I am going to go ahead and approve this. I'm going to vote yes, and my reasonings are this. With some of the schools that are being considered, not all, but some of the schools that are being considered, the buildings are not up to par. And with that, I would not want for us to continue to keep kids and children in a building that we consider sick buildings. Therefore, placing them in an environment where they can continually grow. Some of these buildings that are considered sick buildings are adding to the behavioral health issues that most of these children are experiencing. With the plan and making sure and ensuring that more teachers are going into the schools, it's not a fact that the class sizes will be bigger, there will be more classes added. So that was something that Dr. Leslie Torres Rodriguez has basically stated to us that will happen. And we will hold her accountable for that if this does go through. Also, I want to commend the teachers. Being a teacher is not an easy job. I've substitute taught, and it's not an easy job. But I do say that if teachers are now going to leave their schools, and again, if this is approved, that you take the love that you had for being a teacher and commit that to any school that you go to. Those children that you love in these schools, that means now you can go and you can cultivate other kids. Unfortunately, there are times where some students, you love those students and you're dedicated to your school, but ensure that as a teacher, you're there for all students. So if you're going to another school, remember that that student is first. Another thing is that was brought to my attention with the state that came, and thank you for coming, was that we're considered 35% too big. That troubles me. Unfortunately, we're up here and we're dealing with some things that have happened in the past. So I urge all of the parents, all of the teachers, all of the politicians, everyone that's here, that we go and we talk about some of those issues with respect to the Chef versus O'Neill mandate. There are a lot of issues that unfortunately we cannot deal with as a board alone. We will need your help. The great advocacy and the work that you have done of coming out in opposition or for this proposal has been remarkable. That means that you have the ability to make a change. And if we work as a community together, we can do some things to make Hartford better. So those are kind of the things that I'm stating, and I'm hoping that whether this proposal goes through or not, that we all will work together, because this is our city. Those who do not live in the city, you are here protesting against it or for it, but remember, this is our city, and we only can work together. We only can do well if we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. Mr. Flores.
An important issue that I forgot to mention earlier, and I should have, is the question of community services. Last year, there was talk of closing several schools, and I was said from day one, we cannot close Burns. And the reason I said that is because I have been the SEC chair at Burns, I worked with our community partners there, and I know all of the services that are provided there that are vital to the community. So I am a firm supporter of community schools. I have made this very clear to our superintendent, and part of our plan is that we are going to make every school a community school. When we talk about closing a school, we are not cutting off community services. The intent is to deliver those services to every school. We have discovered in our part of our community engagement that there are a lot more community partners out there than we thought. There are many agencies, people in the community who are willing to work with us, and as part of the plan, we are going to take advantage of that, and we are going to bring those services to more schools so that eventually all our schools are community schools.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Anyone else? Care to comment? Ms. Glanville?
I have. Thank you. So after many weeks and months and even years of listening, I served on the Equity 2020 committee, so I say years because this is a lot of time of listening and feeling. I will be voting in favor of this plan, and I prepared some thoughts about why, so excuse me. Well, first, I think the recommendations are comprehensive and interconnected. They're a comprehensive, interconnected plan in which the vast majority of the district schools will actually be reconfigured, consolidated, and closed over the next 3 years, and the resources reinvested in a more efficient, effective, and equitable system. The proposal painfully proposes the closing of 2 neighborhood schools. One, named after a local civil rights hero that was once nationally recognized as a blue ribbon school for its high achievement, and another that is also beloved by its community and its partners, which is teeming with caring teachers and staff who have hustled to equip their children's environment with beauty and resources, even when our system hasn't been able to provide them. I could go on about what is so special about both of these schools and each and every other neighborhood school in our system, almost all of which I have had the honor of visiting and championing during my time on this board, because I love our neighborhood schools. And it is because of that love for our neighborhood schools that I support this plan. I support this plan because I believe it presents a long-awaited opportunity to preserve the value of the neighborhood school institution and to give all schools in Hartford, as opposed to just some, the chance to thrive. Hartford students deserve the same choice that so many of their suburban peers have, the option to consider diverse magnet schools with different pedagogies and themes, but also not to have to seek alternatives outside of their community in order to get a well-rounded education. Up until today, Hartford has been spiraling down a path of inability to provide the kind of neighborhood school safety net to our students that so many others around the state benefit from, and we can no longer do nothing about that. So I would just caution Superintendent and all of us that not only is there a great amount of work ahead, which we all know, to bring this vision to fruition, but we also cannot do that work alone. We need to work together with our parents, so many of whom we've heard from, our partners, our local and state policymakers, to invest in building these schools. And we also need to pursue housing and economic empowerment within our city, side by side with an investment in education. So I look forward to rolling up my sleeves for the great amount of work ahead that it's actually going to take to deliver on the equitably resourced community schools and pathways that this model calls for. I look forward to building the schools that are accessible to all of our children and responsive to their needs, which allow all of them to reach their full potential. This is a leap. This leap is difficult and painful, but it's also responsible and courageous, and a step towards putting important values back at the center of our school system, where they have always belonged.
Thank you, Ms. Glanville. Is there any other comment or debate? Ms. Taylor?
I'm not speaking last because I got some sort of like showstopper comment. I'm just like a processor. So coming off of Equity 2020, and really I think collectively the board at that time really appealed to the mayor and other stakeholders just asking to postpone that process, because we didn't feel like that process was one that was well vetted, one that was fair, one that was, as Mr. Delgado said, led by the community. These last few public hearings in particular have been really hard. You know, the things that we've heard, you know, sometimes I feel as though I'm embarrassed to be affiliated, to be honest, with Hartford Public Schools, and some of the things that I hear our student outcomes, our achievement. Other times I'm incredibly proud about specific programs, right? But that's part of the issue, is that we have extreme variance amongst our schools and amongst our programs within the same neighborhood, right? So like some folks got iPads on carts and other people have mold on paper. So, you know, some of the things that I heard last night at Batchelder about kicking out the lower class for the middle class, about students who don't matter. One young man broke my heart in saying that he felt as though he would never be as good at any other school, right? This is not something that I or my colleagues approached from a political lens. Most of us here are parents and caregivers. You know, we are not, well, I'll speak for myself, like politics are not involved in terms of like the swaying of my decision. And the choices that I want to make for your students are the same choices that I would make for my own children, right? And I struggled with this a lot today. I was like, they gonna be mad at me? Because I kind of felt like, you know, there are aspects of this plan that are really, really off-putting, right? And really hard to accept. And schools are homes for students, right? But I really do wholeheartedly, fully, completely trust the vision and leadership of Dr. Leslie Torres Rodriguez. She is us. She is for us. She is thoughtful. She is thorough as all get out. And I really do feel confident in supporting the plan. I heard from my neighbor back there from Stowe Village. You know, Simpson Waverly, my kids go there to play. And it definitely is a cornerstone within our community. But my deepest hope is that we won't have places and pockets of excellence, and that every student can be able to have a school that they can feel proud of and connected to. So I fully endorse the plan of the superintendent. I endorse the work and the vision of my colleagues on the board, who have really put in a lot of time and effort into really thinking about this, into engaging the stakeholders. And I too am ready for the next phase, where we are going to be looking at schools to really dismantle systemic racism, right? And to do things that are brave, and to prepare students to have the full range of opportunities that are available to any other student within this surrounding region, right? We're talking about not just like career readiness, but like quality of life, like to prepare students to actually have a quality of life that allows them to feel value and allows them to feel dignified in the way that they're living. So with that said, I fully support the superintendent's plan.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. That only leaves two other people, so Ms. Oliver.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of you know that, similar to my colleagues, I live in a community, North End, which has been impacted heavily by the loss of our schools. And I see one of the schools that I'm very close to, the staff and family of, and quite honestly, it's somewhat breaking my heart tonight. I want to thank all the families and staff, especially, and the students who've spoken, and the staff has followed up with data, because it was very important to me to have a full, informed decision-making ability with this. I want to note that one of the comments I heard was about rubber stamping. Speaking for myself, this is no rubber stamp. This has been very difficult, and I have struggled back and forth. I've heard amazing comments from the public about why our schools are beloved and the amazing work they've done, and I've seen excellence in front of me. But alas, our excellence today is not at scale. I am a product of Hartford Public Schools, King, Fox, and Weaver, and quite frankly, those schools don't exist as is 20 plus years ago. I went to an Ivy League school. I was number 3 in my high school with an A. And I thought everybody had these experiences. I just thought that's what happened for every single student. And I've learned over the past few years, not only does that not happen, we've created a system where it's very likely it will not happen. And I want to commend especially our principals and our teachers locally at these schools who've worked so hard with partners that sometimes are invisible on the ground that are truly making a difference in our children's lives. And as someone who works on early childhood and early learning work, I can tell you we work really hard to get our kids who are 3 and 4-year-olds on age level literacy and numeracy. 3 and 4-year-olds, we're at almost 80%. And yet our test scores, some of are the single digits of age level. I had an opportunity with some of my colleagues to review that data from some of our shining schools. And quite frankly, a win was to be in the 40s. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. And I cannot be a part of this board and this community and say, I am okay with this mediocrity and the creation of another pipeline to negative outcomes in life, including prison. I can't do it. I live in the community I grew up in. I've watched it consistently be depressed. I've watched increased poverty. I've watched increased crime. And let me tell you, a teacher can change your life. A school can change your life. And we need to change more lives. I'm asking that we do have dignity in the transition for our families and our students and our teachers and our staff. This is not easy to be on this board making a decision. I can only imagine what it is to be someone who is feeling the pain close to home. And I am asking for that commitment of ourselves, as well as the staff in central office and elsewhere. And I want to acknowledge that every school is being impacted by this plan. There's no one school being impacted. There's no, oh, you're in a school that's being impacted. No, we're all being impacted. We're one system, we're one city, and I expect all of our children to succeed. And lastly, the other thing I'll say is I'm also asking for the consideration of the buildings that are left behind, for there to be community conversations and voice into what happens to those buildings. Because we do have other opportunities that today are not in our community. Whether they are additional youth centers, people have had ideas about libraries, people talked about other services. There are opportunities here, and I want us to all take advantage of them, and I invite all of you to be part of that process. So I am supporting the plan. Like I said, this is very difficult. You're probably seeing me tearing up a bit. Know that the families of Hartford are very important to me. I wouldn't do what I do every single day if I didn't believe that. And I ask for you all to take the journey with us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else has a comment or debate? Hearing none, Ms. Taylor?
Will we have an opportunity to ask questions?
Sure.
So, I mean, just a couple of things that I think might be helpful for the community to hear when we talk about dignity around transitions. And also, too, you know, like this is an incredible act of faith. So I don't know if Mr. Chair, the superintendent, is able to speak to what are people going to be getting on the other side of their act of faith? Like, you know, we're asking people to make major sacrifices. Can you maybe kind of like lift out some of the things that folks should anticipate in terms of like improved quality or even things that have been put in place in order to help the transition go more smoothly?
I'll reference.
Slip in.
Come on. I'm going to reference some next steps immediate next steps. Certainly, you've heard me before speak to the fact that our continued commitment to the community is to engage and partner. And so improving our network of schools will continue to require all of us, all of our stakeholders, to step up. And so we know that we're establishing two types of teams. We have our transition teams and our strategic school design teams. And the teams will be immediately formed and charged with developing the implementation work plans for specific schools. And you'll get a copy of that within a week or so. And it will entail not only when the engagement is happening, but who from our team is going to be deployed, if you will, to the schools, and who we would like as well to be part of the teams, from our community-based partners to our school-based staff and our parents as well. So that's more so from a process perspective, Ms. Taylor. With regard to our opportunity to structure, we've talked about opportunities to right size, and what that means is having the additional classes per grade that will allow us to structure the school day in a way that's going to facilitate additional time and opportunities for our staff to learn from and with each other around the rigorous standards and practices that we want to see. And then, of course, allowing for our students to have the additional supports that are necessary. We are looking in terms of structures and the design of schools from our advisory teams, right? The practices that we know work best and that we know exist in some of our schools and not in all of them. And so this is the opportunity that we have to lift that from the current schools that we know have excellence in those best practices. I know that's a broad, but as we continue to engage in the transition planning, we will have the specifics for all of the schools. Absolutely.
Mr. Flores?
I heard one of our speakers earlier address the issue of transition and concerns over things like site visits,
yes,
orientation for the students as to the schools that they are going to go and so forth. And I know you don't have, the transition team hasn't come up with a plan yet, but I wonder if you could go into a bit more detail as to what sorts of things are possible.
Yes, I will actually speak to the representation in the transition team. So we'll have someone there from our choice office, special education, student supports, our family support staff, clearly our academic team, our transportation team. We have someone from our health department, health services as well. And then also want to make sure that we, as we think about reducing and eliminating any additional hardships. You know, I've heard from parents around things as like uniforms, for example, and so we want to, we don't want families to incur those costs, and so those are things that we're now addressing with partners and funders, so that we remove that, if you will, from the list of worries for our families. We want to make sure that we allow not only our families and our students, but the staff as well, to have an opportunity to engage with their new colleagues, if you will. We know that our human resource, our Office and Talent Management will begin to do their work as well. As you look at this document here, there are some of the flow, if you will, is outlined here. And so there are schools that we want to make sure that we have the students travel together in grades with their teachers. And so that's the type of, I think it was Ms. Oliver that spoke about dignity through the transition process. And so we want to be intentional in that process.
Thank you. Any more comments? Any more debate?
I don't know if, I know you spoke about community schools. Every school is a community school. We do have the Hartford Partnership for Student Success, and we're developing, the framework for what that means. When my vision for every school being a community school, we have to look at each school individually and their needs. We know that when students shift, it might change, the context of the school and the school needs, and so we want to make sure that we have the additional supports available. And so we're going to continue to work with our community partners. We know that they are experts in not only delivery of service, but helping us craft what that model is.
Thank you. Any other comments? Debate? If not, I guess I'll just take a minute just to comment since everyone else has. First, I just want to say that this is a very difficult situation and a very difficult decision for every one of us, and no one here has taken this lightly at all. We have worked through this and this process through the public hearings. We sat diligently, we listened, we took notes. As you know, and many of you know, because a lot of you have been to the public hearings, they've been very spirited, they've been emotional, they've been highly charged, and they've been difficult. And a lot of comments were very difficult to listen to and to talk about. I just want to make two distinct points. One, for the last 6 months to a year, the former President Council President T.J. Clark and I have talked about relocating a library in Rawson and some of the other schools, and so we've been actively trying to find solution to that particular issue, and it's been a pleasure working with him on that, and we were doing that in respect to this plan, because again, the board, we do not make recommendations, so I had to try to find some busy work while the superintendent was working. And other than that, I speak a lot as a parent and a community member, but tonight, given my idols here, my first idol, I'm going to speak as a little brother. And in our city, we have a lot of challenges, and it's a wonderful thing to see all the people come out and give their opinion opposed or for the plan. But I just want to remind you, during the budget season, when we're at City Hall, there's no one there. When we're talking about money, when we're asking for 1% to 2% of the budget because we've been flat funded for 10 years, there's no one there. When we're at the Capitol trying to rally and get funds, there's no one there. So please don't let this be the end of your advocacy. Do not let this be the end of your involvement. We need to see you in numbers. We need to see you going through the budget system, the budget process, and we need your advocacy at the state capitol, because this is an ongoing fight. This is I don't want to characterize it as a fight because then people get emotional, but this is an ongoing project of ours. We need to change our system. We need to change our city. And we're not going to do that by idly sitting on our hands and wishing and hoping and chasing after our wishes. We have to build a city that is vibrant for all of us. Now, again, we've asked for, and I've asked for 1% to 2% of the budget for a long time. And one of the wonderful things that one of the proudest things that I have, or I revere this board, is because we do have the strength to do what's necessary and what's right for our children. We will do what's right for our children. We will not stop at that work. We will do it. We can disagree. We can agree to disagree. We don't need to be disagreeable. And we're willing to work with anyone who has ideas or solutions. We've heard great solutions, and I've tried to vet those solutions behind the scenes. After every public hearing, I've asked questions. I took notes. I asked more questions. I harassed the superintendent via text, telephone, and email to make sure that we are doing all of what we can to make this a cohesive plan. This plan was well thought out. It was well vetted. ERS was remarkable in the amount of time and work they spent on this. And I just want to remind people, the superintendent has been my partner for almost a year. I'm sorry about that, because that can be hard to work with. But we began this process during the OCA report. She issued an eight-point plan, and that was the beginning of our work together for the last year. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because we also have a lot of issues in our neighborhoods. And I think around that time, we had a 15-year-old child murdered by another 15-year-old child. And I remember thinking, that's my fault. As chairman of the Board of Education, what am I doing to improve the conditions of our children? What am I doing to improve the educational conditions of our children? What am I doing? What am I doing? And it's then that we talked about comprehensive change for the district. It is at that time that we began to collaborate with other board members to figure out what changes we can make, if change was even possible. And a lot of people didn't believe that we were going to do it. A lot of people didn't believe that we're committed. And again, I'm here to tell you that not only are we committed, we will not stop. We will do whatever is necessary to make sure that 2,100 children receive a quality, 21,000 children receive a quality education within the city of Hartford. That's our responsibility. That's our goal. Our goal is not to decide what goes on the XL Center. Our goal is not to decide what stop sign goes where. Our job is to be stewards of the babies. And we take that seriously. Most of us are parents or caregivers, like Mrs. Glanville said. And we want to make sure that we are doing the best job that we can possibly do. So again, I want to invite you all to committee meetings because this work is intensive and it never stops. And I also want to point out that there are some discrepancies or deficiencies with Chef. There are some unintended consequences with Chef. But we also have to remember that institutional racism is real. And we can't cut our nose off to spite our face. And no one's suggesting we do that. But we have to be realistic about our present situation and our conditions. And we have to work together. The city is an oversight. Therefore, we have to take those fiscal challenges into consideration. The state has to do whatever they need to do to make sure that they are in a fiscal position to provide for the municipality. So this is not simply just an isolated thing. No one took a particular school out of a hat and said, this is what we're going to do. There was no optic because we're closing schools in the north end, we have to match schools in the south end. And there's no personal vendetta. This is about children. Or like my sister says, this is not about you. Don't make it about you. This is about children. And when you make it about you, you need to go sit down somewhere and cool off and get back to work. Because this is not about me, this is not about the board, and this is not about the superintendent. This is about 21,000 children and a quality education that we all want them to have. And because of that, we should work together and not be divisive and not lash out or greet each other with malice. So I understand this is difficult. Hopefully we can have a cooling off period. I don't mean to create more work for the superintendent, but we will have engagement sessions periodically coming up. And the board is going to move into the budget season in that process. So we have more room for engagement, more room for dialogue. And forgive me for babbling on, and I'll just get back to regular order. So with that said, the restructuring recommendations as delineated in the district model of excellence summary of recommendations. All those are in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, unanimous vote. Motion passed. Item number 2, second reading and adoption, various Hartford Public Schools policies from the Policy Committee. The Hartford Board of Education accepts the second reading and adopts the following policies. Policy 4118-1, non-discrimination, personnel. And item number B, policy 5162, non-discrimination, students. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I already spoke to this during my report. This is a non-discrimination policy that impacts both students and personnel. Feel free to read over it in your packet, and I would appreciate if we could move this because Policy Committee has a long agenda of work to complete for the look at Ms. Glanville for the academic year. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
Is there a comment or question from Ms. Taylor? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay. And now item number B, we are at the consent agenda. Is there a motion to take the consent agenda all as one item?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion to take the consent agenda all up as one item. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Now, is there a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So moved.
And moved in second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor to pass the consent agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We stand adjourned.
Saludos, estoy orgullosa de ser su superintendente, la doctora Leslie Torres Rodríguez. Estoy dirigiendo el proceso crucial de reimaginar y reestructurar nuestro distrito escolar. Necesito que ustedes, todos ustedes, tengan una participación significativa en nuestro proceso. Estamos haciendo esta labor crucial para cumplir nuestro compromiso, garantizar mejores resultados para los estudiantes y un acceso equitativo a los recursos para todos y cada uno de nuestros estudiantes hermosos y competentes. Cuando hayamos completado este proceso juntos, tendremos en nuestras manos un distrito escolar más fuerte y más equitativo, diseñado para servir bien a todos los estudiantes, y un plan construido por toda la comunidad para el beneficio de toda la comunidad. Nosotros en las escuelas públicas de Hartford estamos coordinando este proceso, pero ustedes, la comunidad, las familias, los estudiantes, los maestros y todos nuestros socios son las voces y las mentes que orientan este trabajo. Al compartir sus opiniones, ustedes ayudarán a crear nuestro modelo del distrito. Nuestro trabajo en conjunto, que se llevará a cabo durante los próximos meses en reuniones comunitarias con familias, socios y escuelas, culminará con la presentación de recomendaciones para modelos de excelencia del distrito. Estos modelos demostrarán diferentes maneras en que el distrito puede ser reimaginado, tomando en consideración la condición y viabilidad de nuestros vecindarios y garantizando el acceso continuo de oportunidades y servicios a nuestras familias y estudiantes. Para obtener más noticias sobre este proceso, visite nuestra página del web del distrito en el www.hartfordschools.org.